Hey everybody, I hope y'all are having a good Tuesday. I hope everyone had a great weekend. And let's go ahead and get started. So, our lesson's going to be a little short today. We're going to be in Hebrews chapter 12, and we're going to be looking at just two verses. It's going to be verse 14 and 15. Verse 14 says, "Follow peace with all men and holiness, without which no man shall see the Lord. Looking diligently, lest any man fail of the grace of God, lest any root of bitterness springing up trouble you, and thereby many be defiled." This verse we're talking about, I've titled this the lesson "When Bitter Becomes Better." I may have spoke about this a while back, but there was a period in my life where I allowed bitterness to take root, and it is amazing how bitterness affects your life and you don't even realize it. You don't realize the way you are responding to people is hinged on just a bitter root you have not been able to let go of. And in verse 14, Jesus is he's speaking through Paul, and he says, "Follow peace with all men and holiness, without which no man shall see the Lord." If we're not showing the peace of God and living a life that is holy, it's going to be hard for people to see the Lord in us. And I know those are just two simple sounding things, but it's true. If we are not showing God's peace, that God brings us joy and happiness, and we're living a life where we just look like we've sucked on a lemon all day, how are people going to see the Lord when we're acting that way? And in verse 15, "Looking diligently, lest any man fail of the grace of God." Can examine your life daily. Ask God to show you. Say, "God, is there any root of bitterness springing up in me? Is there anything in me, Lord, that I am exhibiting that I can cause other people to turn away?" But it's also a thing for us. If I'm bitter, it affects me. It affects my walk with the Lord. And it does. In this part it says, "Any root of bitterness springing up trouble you." Physically, bitterness can cause us physical problems. A lot of times we live with a bitter root because we continue to dwell on things of the past. And I think one thing that's dangerous for us to do is really to dwell on anything in the past. And that can be whether good or bad, because, when we dwell on things of the past, it helps us to continue, to be bitter towards the future, because we just continually go back to that bad thing that happened to us. Or even if something really good at one point happened to us in the past, we like to bring that up into the future. Or, we'll say, "Oh man, that was the day when blah blah blah." Something that God's really convicted me on is, my husband and I first got married. Of course, they call you all the time, bring you flowers, they want to take you out, and then you get married, and that stuff slowly starts to stop. And I've had to realize that I can't. My husband loves me so much. He would do anything for me, and I can't hang my present and my future on things that were done in the past and hold those things to get him. Two of the worst words that we can say to people is always and never. And I used to say that to him. I'm like, "You used to always call me, and now you never do." Those are damaging words, and I don't ever want to say those things to him, so much to the point where he doesn't think he can ever do anything good, because I'm always saying always and never. So they're damaging words, even using that in a past way with something bad. So don't look back at past experiences and dwell on them. Instead, we need to plow ahead into the future. And I'm sure, let's flip the switch on this. There have been people who've been deeply hurt by someone in the past. And when we are, and this is me speaking from experience, I allow that bitterness to fester. It destroys you mentally, but it's also physically a destroyer of the body. Stress, anxiety, fear. Do you know that in women, the number one cause of death in women, one of the leading causes of death in women, disease-wise, is heart disease, and it's because of stress, anxiety, things like that, and a lot of it is things that we put on ourselves. It's problems that we place up on ourselves. But a bitter fruit can grow up. You know, a lot of times we like to pick up a bitter fruit because we just truthfully want to keep hanging on to that bitter fruit. It's hard for us to let go of something when we truly feel hurt about it. But if we don't let go of that bitter fruit, if we don't throw it away, give it to God, ask Him to take it from us, it can grow more bitter fruit. So how do we fix bitterness? You know, do you dwell on it? Do you seethe over it? Get absolutely angry? Because, again, bitterness can destroy your life. It can destroy your marriage. It can even destroy ministry. One of the things I think that, well, not really one of, I think the answer to bitterness is that we don't need to focus on what's been done to us. We need to focus on what's been done for us. Because Jesus was betrayed because of us. But He forgave us. You know, it may be that we feel betrayed by people. But if you're a Christian, this life that you live, we live our life for Jesus, and Jesus tells us to forgive other people. You know, He even tells us, it's in Matthew 6:14. I'm just going to go ahead and turn there and read that. Sorry, I didn't have it open. For if ye forgive men their trespasses, your heavenly Father will also forgive you. But if ye forgive not men their trespasses, neither will your Father forgive your trespasses. My pastor preached on this message probably 3 or 4 years ago, and he made a simple comment. You've probably heard it before. He said, and it was along this lines of just bitterness and the root of bitterness, you know, just staying within us. And he said, you know, you can either be bitter about something, or you can choose to make the situation better, to be bitter or better. And when he said that, I was like, and another comment he said was that the person that did this to you, they probably don't even know that they did this to you, and you're the only one suffering from this. He says it's a choice, you know. And I look at what I've been hurt by things in the past, but I look at what Jesus did for me. I don't want to dwell on what was done to me. I want to dwell on what's been done for me. And what's been done for me is that Jesus, He suffered the worst rejection. He suffered the worst pain. He could have said, no, I'm not going to die for these people. But He willingly chose to lay down His life for us because He loved us. So instead of being bitter against people for things, I just want to learn to turn to Jesus. Choose to turn those situations better. Stop dwelling on what's been done to me, but just dwell on what God's done for me. Because Jesus will turn our weeping into joy, and He will renew our minds. He'll help us learn how to get past this bitterness. But if you're bitter, I'm telling you, I know it's hard. I don't know what's been done to you, but ask God to help you. Ask God to forgive you. Tell God you want to forgive the person that has wronged you. And then you tell God, I forgive them. You know, even if you don't really necessarily mean it at this moment, you keep telling God, God, I want to forgive. Help me forgive. I forgive. He will change your heart. I know He will. And He'll help that bitter root that's in you to be pulled out. And He's going to place a root of joy there. I know it because He's done it with me, and He can do it for you. I hope you guys have a good Tuesday, and I'll see you next time.